I think for most actors, there's always that one phase where everything just sort of clicks. Every film lands, every move feels intentional, and there's this undeniable sense of momentum to them. Not just success, but there's a trajectory. You can feel the rise, you can see where it's all going, it all feels very electric. For Varun Dhawan, that phase was very much real, and for a while it truly felt like he was that guy. Not he has potential kind of guy, but he's already doing numbers and he's not slowing down kind of guy. Between 2012 and 2017, Varun Dhawan wasn't just working, he was winning. He was strategic, he knew the assignment, and he delivered hit after hit after hit. He had this fun, slightly goofy boy next door vibe that worked perfectly in rom-coms and masala films. He could dance, he could fight, he could charm your socks off all in one movie. He was tailor-made for that post-2010 Bollywood vibe. But he didn't stop there. With Badlapur, he went darker, more internal. With October, he slowed everything down and stripped it all back. There was an effort to evolve, and for a minute it looked like it might just work. People started looking at him less like David Dhawan's son and more like an actor in his own right. When you really think about it, that's specifically wild considering he was part of an industry that can chew you up and move on with it in a weekend. But fast forward to today, and that's not the case. Varun Dhawan doesn't evoke the same kind of excitement and enthusiasm in the journal audience that he once did a decade ago. You know, when you forget a tab is open on your browser and it's been sitting there in the background for hours and hours, that's what Varun Dhawan's career feels like right now. It's still open, it's still technically running, but no one's really clicking on it. And it raises the question, what has changed? Because the talent is still there, the audience goodwill was there, the industry support was still intact. He didn't lose fans and he didn't burn bridges. But somewhere along the way, the spark, that thing that made him feel fresh, exciting, appealing to the next generation started to fade. And he hasn't quite found a way to get it back. I think from the very beginning, Varun Dhawan understood what kind of films worked for him and more importantly, what kind of personality worked on screen. He wasn't trying to be the most versatile actor in the room right away. He played to his strengths. Energetic rom-coms, dance-heavy entertainers, loud, colorful, crowd-pleasing films that didn't pretend to be more than they were, but worked because he fully committed to them. He had a clear type because he wasn't boxed by any of it. In Main Tera Hero, he leaned into the Govinda-style chaos with full confidence. It was over the top, for sure, but it was never grating. It worked because he didn't act above the material, he owned it. In Humpty Sharma Ki Dulhania, he found the right balance of charm, vulnerability and comic timing. It was the kind of role that could have felt generic, but he made it feel personal, familiar, without being forgettable. And then came Badlapur, a pivot but not a jarring one. The intensity didn't feel like a desperate leap into serious acting. It felt like an actor slowly stretching his muscles, showing us that the sunny exterior could also hold shadows too. Then Badrinath Ki Dulhania happened, arguably the peak of that first phase. It had all the ingredients of his earlier hits, but with more maturity baked in. The structure was familiar, but the themes were much deeper. And Varun didn't dilute his likability to play a flawed character. He evolved within his zone. Kalank was supposed to be this grand, sweeping period drama, all opulence in scale, but beneath all that visual polish, there wasn't much holding it up. It looked like a film that wanted to be a classic without really earning it, and for Varun, it felt like the first time he looked lost. That earlier ease, that spark he brought even to the most flawed of scripts, wasn't there anymore. He looked like he was trying to fit into a version of stardom that didn't naturally suit him. Then came Street Dancer 3D, followed by Coolie Number 1, and then Bhedia. Three very different films on paper, but weirdly, they all felt the same. Disconnected, loud, confused about who they were really made for. The problem wasn't that Varun was experimenting, it's that none of it felt experimental. For someone who once pulled off a Badlapur and an October, this stretch felt like ghosting. Same high energy beats, same forced emotions, same one volume fits all dialogue delivery. It became less about who he was playing and more about how loud he could play that. And let's be real, the audience noticed. People who once saw him as the next big thing, who grew up watching his earlier hits, started to check out. Not out of hate, just indifference. That's worse, to be very honest. It wasn't a dramatic crash, it was more like a slow fade. Not one big flaw, but a pattern of safe choices disguised as bold ones. He was still present, but the excitement around him wasn't anymore. And when you're a star who once thrived on energy and charm, losing that connection hurts more than a box office miss. I think every actor has flops. That's never been the problem. The real question is, what do you do after a flop? Some actors step back, they rethink, they adapt. But with Varun, the response hasn't been reinvention, it's been repetition. Same kinds of roles, same loud energy, same attempts at recreating that meta hero charm, just without the same freshness. It's like he's been stuck chasing a past version of himself, the guy who cracked the 100 crore club with rom-coms and goofy comedies. But here's the thing, the audience isn't in 2015 anymore. The industry has moved on, OTT platforms took over, people started enjoying smaller, moodier films, where characters whisper more than they shout, where the hero doesn't have to punch five guys in order to prove that he's got a presence. We started looking for performances and not just personalities. Actors like Vicky Kaushal, Ayushmann Khurrana, even Siddharth Chaturvedi, they bought something newer, more textured, less performative. And Varun, who at one point seemed perfectly placed to ride that shift, he just didn't. He stayed in this loop of big sets, louder jokes, and dramatic monologues that felt like they were written in 2014. It's not about talent, the man's clearly got it, but somewhere along the way the choices got safe, predictable, like he's playing a highlight reel of his own career just on repeat. And when you're in an industry that punishes staleness more than failure, that's a risky place to be. Not because people hate you, but because they stop waiting for you. And that's the real danger, when the audiences just move on and you don't even notice. It's like he found earlier success and just froze there. There was October, of course, still one of the best things he's done. Calm, restrained, beautifully internal. And for a moment it felt like he was heading somewhere exciting. But then, nothing. It didn't lead to more roles like that. He didn't tap deeper into the quiet side. He just went back to shouting, dancing, and being hero number one again. As if October was an accident, not a revelation. And that's the most frustrating part about all of this. Because Varun Dhawan has the tools, the sensitivity, the timing, the ability to hold emotion without words. But he keeps leaving that toolbox at home. And you can't grow if you're not even trying new exercises. The result? A filmography that's running in circles while the rest of the industry runs ahead. I think it's safe to say that at this point his IMDb page is more depressing than Kalank, and I sat through that film twice.